People's Radio United.
Well, see, that's one of the quirks in particular about DC
participated.
is that you really can't have a major gathering in DC without a permit, or it's like automatically a very large problem. Just because of the nature of DC. I mean, the whole place is federal, so it's that's a pretty unique situation. But yeah, I agree with you overall.
Yeah, DC, I learned a lot about DC in this last year, covering things like just helping you guys with the Women's March and getting call-ins from there, from the Million Mask March. Yeah, it's really different than anywhere else I've been to. And I think it is because it's all federal.
Yeah, because it's not technically a part of any state. It's all federal land. I mean, like, that's a federal trash can, that's a federal building, that's a federal street. You're walking on Fed turf, and you're very, very close to a lot of high security buildings kind of wherever you go in the places that a protest would happen. So everything is just enormously different than it would be in any other city.
Yeah, they charge those guys with federal crimes instead of just destruction of property and stuff.
I am in no way surprised by that because, again, federal trash can. Like, it might just be a trash can, but it's theirs. And yeah, I mean, like, when I saw those cats get arrested, I'm like, oh, they're in so much more trouble than they even realize. Like, if they're used to being in, anywhere else, this is going to be a whole new rodeo.
Yeah, and one of the issues I have is a lot of these cats lately are like, don't film us, you know what I mean? And here's the thing, I mean, from my experience with Antifa, they're awesome, and they're well organized, and if somebody comes to a protest to do something, maybe that the others might not consider legal or whatever, they should have a mask on from the beginning or a bandana or something. Because there's going to be, anytime you're at a protest, there's cameras everywhere.
Oh, yeah.
And it's up to you to cover your face. I don't understand that. You can't film us. Don't do this. Don't do that. Most Antifa want to be filmed. They want people to see what they're doing because it stands out and it shows that people join us. You know what I mean? We can all do this. But a lot of these
this also
cats
comes down to like basic expectation of privacy. If you're in a public place, you have no expectation of privacy under the law, and frankly, outside the law, should have no expectation of privacy. Period. Because, like, you know what? If you're going to talk some like squirrely business at a coffee shop somewhere, everybody in that coffee shop has a possibility of hearing you talking about your personal business. So, like, no expectation of privacy, right? Like, if you want to be private, make yourself private from go. I agree with you.
Yeah, I mean, in the old days, we used to mask up way out the way and show up there ready to go. Like, nobody's not wearing masks, whether it's Sky Fox masks. Back then, we didn't have those, just bandanas and beanies and ski masks and stuff, because we were going there to bash Nazis. That was the whole point of going. You know what I mean?
Well, see, and that's when that sort of thing works, is like, if that's your tactic, and again, like, we are neutral on tactics, or at least I am right now, because I'm speaking for myself. You look at the very famous Nazi punch from DC, right? The Spencer punch. Glory be to that. Oh, hashtag punch a Nazi.
Yes.
The thing that was so very slick about that whole situation, in my opinion, is you've got a guy, fairly well covered. He dives in real slick. He dives out like a ninja, and boom, his friends are all there, and he vanishes. Right back into the thick of the crowd because he blends. That doesn't work if you didn't blend from the beginning, right?
Well, that's the point of Black Bloc. Everybody dresses all in black. Everyone looks the same. You can blend right back into your own crowd.
Precisely.
Plus, it looks scary, and because the pigs are out there trying to look scary with all their military gear, and it looks scary when they can't see your face. I mean, these are the common police tactics they used forever, the glasses, the sunglasses, to try to intimidate you, and so they look more authoritarian. And I remember when I was younger, I would put sunglasses on and stare right back at them, and they get furious. Take the glasses off. Take your glasses off. I mean, they'd literally snatch them off my face a couple times. They hate when you do that. When you use police tactics back at them, and even in a small way up to big scale, oh my God, they get furious. Because it intimidates them. They're just humans like us. And they're really
I think anybody who's ever been even like a little bit subcultural can relate to that. Even if you have no run-ins whatsoever with police, right? Like if you were a punk back in the day or a goth kid or whatever, right? And you're going around with your spikes or, and you're crazy covered in makeup or whatever. Like, I admit that was me. And, I walk down the street, people are like, what the hell? All like, you're so scary. Why are you acting all scary and crazy? And actually, one of the greatest joys in my life was to be like stupendously nice and polite to these people. Like, oh man, like, it just makes me happy to dress like this. Like, can I hold that door for you? And that would really screw them up. But the thing is, it's just that you're right. There's that certain sort of uniform, that personal armor that people instantly are going to find intimidating. And as you say, the police force is a body of human beings who are susceptible to the same psychology as any other human being.
Yeah, since we're on the subject of protests, let's talk real quick about what the government is doing in many, many states. We touched on it briefly on Steve's show yesterday.
Oh, but, yeah, the whole, like, having to ask for permission going to a whole nother level, right?
Well, they're saying, I mean, there's a couple of things. There's asking for permission. You have to have permits to do marches in some places. Some places are saying if you show up to a town hall meeting and yell, it's considered violence, and they won't have town hall.
And Arizona is saying that planning a protest could be considered racketeering, so...
And they're also saying a lot of places are starting to do these anti-mask rules, and a couple of states I even heard are giving police human rights, like they're a race of people that deserve special human rights.
Yeah, the Blue Lives laws, which incidentally, that's not just a state level thing. Like, I'm still trying to run down the exact details, but, we've got these executive orders in the quote unquote Blue Lives Matter vein, which, would have federal bearing. And that's a little bit alarming in itself.
I'm just
wondering.
By a little
bit, I mean, oh dear.
I'm just wondering if this is really going to scare people off of speaking up and practicing their First Amendment right to free speech to go up against the oppressive government, because now that people are standing up, they want to shut it down more than ever. And I'm just hoping people realize this is our right, whether it's illegal supposedly or not. No, the Constitution says it's our right. We can do what we want. And we outnumber them. If we show up in big enough numbers, they're going to back down. I've literally seen police back down. Down south, there was a huge protest. We had like 60,000, 70,000 people. Immediately, they brought all the black cops up and put them in the front. So, like, we weren't going to attack black cops, supposedly. And these cops had little badges saying, we support you, trying to look all cool. They looked terrified. And we're screaming, rush the courthouse, rush the courthouse. And the cops, oh my God, the terror. And if they could have not done anything. The people that stopped it were a bunch of protesters who had microphones and megaphones that were like, no, we don't want violence today. I'm talking about freeing prisoners. It wasn't violent. We're going to go up in there either way and get these people out of there. These are our people they had locked away. But nobody's for that
I mean,
stuff.
there's a place for de-escalation, But, yeah, it just... The whole thing is a very intricate dance, Any action kind of has its own rhythm, and it's a very intricate dance between escalation and de-escalation.
Yeah, but there's been times we pulled our people back from the police because we outnumbered them. And they couldn't arrest anybody that day. Our people got snatched back through the crowds. Mm-hmm. That's how you have to do it sometimes. And people can't be scared out there. That's the thing. They know the people are terrified. And they bring in all this stuff. Sometimes, that's why I'm like a supporter of some of this stuff, Sometimes you gotta push hard against those that are trying to take everything you have. Because singing them away and all this hasn't worked in the past, in my opinion. But I could be wrong. I'm wrong a lot.
Well, here's where I'm at on this whole thing. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Steve.
I didn't hear you.
That's just all I was going to say, is that I think Tim is spot on with that. I mean, this isn't, I don't know. This is really serious shit we're dealing with. We're dealing with an increasingly hostile and violent state. And I mean, Christ, in the last 4 weeks, it's escalated. The state's violence and oppression in the last 4 weeks has escalated more than it did in the 4 years prior. This is not a time for, this is not a time for backing down. This is not a time for, letting them scare us. I mean, it's a time for us to sit and say, well, if we get to go home at night, but at any time, police could just kick in our door because they don't like us, or they want to say they think we're suspicious of something. Are we really free? We might as well be in prison at that point. So fuck it, hit the streets, get your ass thrown in prison. It doesn't make a difference.
Well, and this I do agree with completely because honestly, like looking at history, right? Um, Regardless of what people think they're doing right now, whether it's just like, oh, I'm just talking on Twitter, right? I'm just talking on Facebook, right? Well, guess what? There's a thread on that. There's a track on that. People know who you are in some cases because you're not being too subtle about it, or you maybe you don't want to be subtle about it. That's cool. But the thing is like after a certain point of the escalation of fascism, anybody who speaks like that is an enemy of the state. And that is a fact because it goes from hashtag the resistance to the bloody underground, we need to find an old school letterpress resistance, you know, like look at
Right.
France and Denmark in the 40s, right? Because that's just how things go after a certain point. And if things do continue at this pace, that is where we will end up. And every single person who is a dissenting voice will be a threat. So that whole kicking in the front door thing becomes a very real possibility for anybody who has a history of saying, this ain't cool. I don't stand up for this. I'm going to stand against it. I'm going to stand against this 100% every single day. And, you know, so I am personally like a big proponent of being respectful in discourse. But at the very same time, I make a big distinction between that and just being polite because I think we are all out of time to be polite.